against a Houston area anti-fascist group for posting the personal information of alleged neo-Nazis online. We'll discuss this and more of today's top stories. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Frank Billingsley. We'll also talk with reporter Natalia Contreras. She'll talk about the Trump administration asking states to turn over their voter rolls.
And I'm Celestia Sherman. Plus, Houston area actress Brenda Palestina will tell us about her lead role in the HALT Theatre's production of Real Women Have Curves.
And as always, we want to hear from you. Give us a call or text us at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Just go to houstonpublicmedia.org and click the purple box.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Janine Herbst. On Capitol Hill, top officials from the Department of Homeland Security are testifying before a House committee as the agency comes under fire for the recent shooting deaths of 2 U.S. citizens in Minnesota. DHS funding runs out Friday night. A new report is dismissing President Trump's claims of widespread non-citizen voting in U.S. elections. NPR's Miles Parks has more.
The Nonpartisan Center for Election Innovation and Research, or CEIR, tracked data from all 50 states and found that allegations about non-citizens voting, quote, arise from misunderstandings, mischaracterizations, or outright fabrications about complex voter data. CEIR Executive Director David Becker.
It is extremely rare that non-citizens get registered, and then it is infinitesimally rare that they vote.
In Iowa, an exhaustive search there found 35 non-citizen votes in 2024 out of the state's 1.67 million cast. Still, just last week, President Trump again falsely described the problem as widespread, as he argued to, quote, nationalize the country's election systems. Miles Parks, NPR News, Washington.
Russia and France have reestablished low-level diplomatic relations some 4 years after Paris cut relations with Moscow in the wake of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. NPR's Charles Maines reports.
Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said contacts between Russia and France were operating at a technical level for now, but suggested talks between heads of state could be arranged in short order. French President Emmanuel Macron, who enjoyed good relations with Kremlin leader Vladimir Putin before the war in Ukraine, has argued for a resumption of dialogue, lest Europe be cut out of ongoing U.S.-Russian peace negotiations over Ukraine that impact Europe's future. French re-engagement began earlier this month when Macron dispatched a senior advisor to Moscow. When asked by journalists what he'd learned from his envoy's visit, Macron responded, confirmation that Russia doesn't want peace right now. Charles Maines, NPR News, Moscow.
Investors got a lackluster report on retail sales this morning. NPR's Scott Horsley has more.
The retail report from the Commerce Department shows overall spending at stores and restaurants didn't budge in December as cautious shoppers watched their pennies. Spending on cars, furniture, and electronics fell, while spending on groceries and gasoline was slightly higher. Stock in Coca-Cola lost a little fizz after the company projected slower sales growth than forecasters were expecting this year. Coke raised prices in North America by 4% in its most recent quarter. For those who are thirsty for savings, the company began offering smaller cans. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
Wall Street is trading in mixed territory at this hour. The Dow is up 230 points. That's up about 0.4%. The Nasdaq is down 24 points. The S&P 500 is up 1. You're listening to NPR News from Washington.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. Early voting in the 2026 Texas primary elections begins 1 week from today. News 88.7 political reporter Andrew Schneider takes a closer look at one of the marquee races on the ballot, the Republican contest for the U.S. Senate.
Senator John Cornyn, who is seeking a fifth term, is facing one of the toughest Republican primaries of his long career, with serious challenges from State Attorney General Ken Paxton and Congressman Wesley Hunt. Joshua Blank is research director of the Texas Politics Project at UT Austin.
Getting things done is not always a win if it requires compromise. And that's the challenge that Cornyn faces, is that by being in leadership and by being successful, it has engendered skepticism among the very voters who he needs to support to get back and use that influence.
The latest poll from the University of Houston's Hobby School shows Paxton leading Cornyn by 7 percentage points, with Hunt a distant third place. None of them are polling strongly enough to win the nomination outright in March, making a runoff likely. I'm Andrew Schneider, News 88.7.
To hear more on the Republican primary for the U.S. Senate, tune into Andrew's feature this afternoon on All Things Considered here on News 88.7. The Cy-Fair ISD School Board voted 4-3 last night to reinstate 13 chapters from 5 textbooks. 2 years ago, the previously conservative-leaning trustees removed several chapters on topics including climate change, vaccinations, cultural diversity, depopulation, and the human impact on the earth and ecosystems, topics board members at the time deemed controversial. In November last year, several incumbents were voted out and replaced by pro-public education candidates. 3 new board members campaigned on a promise to restore the banned chapters. The chief of police in Humble has stepped down. Chief Dan Zientek resigned effective immediately. This comes as he is under investigation for alleged ties to a business that he operated that was financially connected to the police department. Zientek has been on unpaid leave for about 2 months. His departure comes 7 months after getting promoted. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Jarl and Pamela Mohn, focusing on civil liberties, foster youth, public radio, and the arts. And the Public Welfare Foundation, committed to advancing transformative youth and criminal justice reforms.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hello, Houston.
Hello.
Welcome back.
It's a full house.
It got us all. House. How was your day off?
It was good. It was I had to, Mom's caregiver had an appointment, and so I got to spend an extra day with Mom. I usually have her all weekend, and then she lives with me, so I have her all the time, but it's like engaging with her all day long. And I have to say, if you don't appreciate your caregivers, if you work with them either for children or the elderly, oh my Lord.
Real world issues.
Yeah, and having an extra day, I'm worn out. So I just imagine what these folks do. And they're often not the best paid in the entire healthcare arena, and they have the most one-on-one time with your loved ones. And so really, when you can, show them the love you can. That's my little...
I will say my experience is that the ones who choose to do that really love doing it. Mm-hmm. They seem to have a passion to be with elderly people and those are going through dementia. Yeah. And they do a really fine job.
And when you find a good one, and we have been very blessed because, hold on, I just turned on my computer and got a double sound. When you get one that really is good, they are a lifesaver. And sometimes you have to weed through to find the right one. But when you do,
it's like marriage, Ernie. It's
like marriage. I need to get better at weeding through that end of it. And then, not to say anything about where I'm at today.
But we want to thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston. Today is February 10th, 2026. It is Tuesday. We are moving right along into the week. And Frank,
it's Tuesday.
Talk to us about that weather outside.
You know what? It's nice out.
It is nice.
There's a little disturbance that's going to move through overnight tonight. So I think you'll sleep through it, but it showers between midnight and 4 or 5 a.m. or a possibility as this moves through. And then it's quiet and mild as we go into the weekend until Saturday.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Now, Saturday is Valentine's Day on the broad scale.
Yes.
But it's also the big Momus Parade in Galveston on the micro scale. I know.
How bad's the weather going to be?
Well, bad is such a relative term, isn't it? It's a pretty good chance of rain on Saturday. Now,
but there's rain. And then last year, I remember the first weekend of Mardi Gras, it was like torrential rain.
Yeah.
Are we talking serious heavy downfall, or are we talking annoyance?
I think we're talking some serious thunderstorms or possibility. You know, last year the Gambrinus Parade was canceled.
I know.
Yeah.
I was down there.
I was
emceeing it. And then they stuck us out in the rain and like 2 floats went by. And it was like, okay, this is over.
I think I remember watching you do that, and I was like, wow, Ernie's really dedicated to this.
I don't want to be on a float if there's lightning within 5 miles.
Oh, absolutely.
I go with the Hobby Airport tarmac rule. I don't like lightning. People don't respect lightning like they should.
No, they don't.
And a lot of people don't even know where it comes from.
And I have to tell you, a lot of times it's moms at pools we'll be at the pool and they'll say, everybody out. And we all look at each other like, really?
Didn't I tell you I was at Greek Easter? I go to Easter and Greek Easter.
Yes.
Even though my friend here who's Greek doesn't go to Greek Easter.
We watches
have our
the
own
10
Greek
Commandments.
Easter. And on real Easter, we have our tradition, the 10 Commandments on Easter Eve.
Okay, so this was a few years ago, and all these kids were in the pool. There were thunder and lightning, and all I could see was the headline, "Kids killed by lightning," and while weatherman looks on, that's all I could see. And I said, "Get out of that pool! You've got to get out of that pool!" And
They're going to ruin my career if you die.
These kids still hate me. They still hate me. They're like, "You made us get out of the pool." And so every time I go to Greek Easter now, I have to look the kids in the eye. I'm like, "You don't have to get in the. You can stay in the pool."
Speaking of Easter, Alec Garza reminds us online that Lent season starts next week.
I think Ash Wednesday, yes.
Get all that's why Mardi Gras is Fat Tuesday.
Yep.
You're supposed to eat what you want, drink what you want.
We'll be at News and Brews.
Is that next
Tuesday?
We will be there.
We will be at News and Brews.
So we can have some brews.
So we'll have some
and
brews.
Then on Wednesday, we have to give it all up.
For 40 days.
40 days.
Not going to happen, is it, Celeste?
I don't know.
Anyway, so there you go. We'll talk more about, I'm sure, the Lenten season as we're in it, and upcoming Easter. It's earlier this year. That's why everything's happening a little quicker. Also, coming up on today's show, there's some really fascinating stuff going on in the world out there. And one of those is this whole thing with voter rolls and the federal government wanting the voter rolls, the administration wanting them. Texas has turned ours over. What does it mean?
Of course
What's
we have.
Really at play
here?
here?
The governor probably delivered him himself.
We're going to find out. That's going to happen on today's show. We're also going to talk. We have MAD coming in, Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
Yes.
There's this whole idea of all these new cars by 2030 will have a way to detect if you are drunk and in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
Well, either your car simply won't start. And we'll find out about all the different technology.
Right. There's laws coming down about that. We'll be talking about the Ensemble Theatre, a wonderful jewel in the crown that is Houston, is going to be here. It's Black History Month, and they have a wonderful legacy they're going to share with us. And speaking of legacies, the Alley Theatre is bringing Real Women Have Curves to the stage, and we have the star coming in.
It's going to be very exciting.
Nice.
All that and more on today's show. But as always, where do we begin?
Headlines.
On a straight and narrow.
Headlines with Celeste.
Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton says he is pursuing legal action against a Houston area anti-fascist group over its online activity. Paxton alleges the Screwston Anti-Fascist Committee may have broken state law by sharing personal information about people it identifies as neo-Nazis or members of far-right groups. The practice, often called doxing, involves posting private details online with harmful intent. The Attorney General has issued a formal request for the group's records as part of his investigation into possible legal violations, including whether the activity could be linked to terrorism-related offenses. The group describes itself as an organization formed in 2016 to oppose fascism and far-right movements in the Houston area. Its website includes a section calling out what it labels local fascist, with links to outside sites that list names, addresses, and other personal details. The group also sells merchandise featuring political slogans supporting anti-racist causes. Where do you think the line between exposing extremist groups and protecting personal privacy lies? And do you think publishing personal details helps keep communities safe, or does it make situations more dangerous? Now is the time to join us on Hello Houston, 713-440-8870.
Well, do you make a difference between someone who's been convicted of a crime? Because certainly we have sex offender registries,
right?
And you can look up and see if there are sex offenders in your neighborhood. Mm-hmm. That seems very legitimate. Should you be able to find out if there are people who've been convicted of any kind of domestic terrorism or any kind of crime that is associated with political agenda?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of the question. But these people are doing it just because, I guess, someone identifies as far right or neo-Nazi.
Right. I think that what you're saying essentially is that you want to know if there is essentially somebody who has had some type of sex offense and they're
Is there a danger? And
yeah. I think the issue here is, though, that they're calling out people for their ideology. Mm-hmm. And that's where it becomes questionable.
Well, we saw in Charlotte, North Carolina, a few years back, it can become deadly.
Right.
Based on ideology. But you're right. Yeah, so should they be able to do that or not? Apparently, they're not. Yeah. But let's face it here. I would like to know how much money Ken Paxton is spending of Texas's money on all these lawsuits, one after another, from 10 Commandments and this group and that group. Anything that doesn't fit his agenda, he's suing, and he's spending your money and my money to do it. So this, in and of itself, more legal action that will probably go nowhere, except some lawyers will get rich.
Yeah, I wonder on this whole one. I wonder if the flip of it were if they were identifying people as antifa or far left groups, would then they be as concerned? Would the AG be that interested in it? I'm also kind of fascinated with Scrooston, and according to the story, that they are identifying as neo-Nazi. So I'm curious, what are they using to decide who is who and what is what, and then publishing private information? How private is the information they're publishing? I think there's also a problem in today's day and age. What is considered private information? How much can I find out about you simply by Googling your name? And if that's out there, does that then mean it's public information, that I can see all this info? And it's funny because it'll play into our first story coming up after our break about what information is held and who knows it and what it matters if other people know it, especially in today's day and age.
Yeah, and are they weaponizing it?
Right.
And you also have to look at this, the people that they're calling out, regardless of, what they think or feel or say, these are people in the real world that are sometimes they're business owners. Should these people be losing, all of a sudden, if somebody sees your name on that list and they say, you're on that list, and you know what, as a community, we're going to boycott you. All of a sudden, there are real repercussions to somebody calling you out online and saying, hey, you believe this, or you're saying that you are a neo-Nazi, or you're this, and people responding to it.
Hey, and I could name 4 Frank Billingsleys that I've known. I mean, one from Austin, one from Orlando, one from North Carolina, and one from Houston, Texas. Right. Those are just people I know that are named Frank Billingsley. So you get, you could get that whole issue.
We've seen it happen where, they'll name a suspect in a national crime, and people that have names like that will say their Facebook all of a sudden will blow up, or their Instagram.
Yes.
So, I think there's also a fine line between behaviors and ideology. So if you believe something, should you be called out for it? Or if you act on something, should you be called out for it? And I think that's a hard line to separate in today's day and age, too. You may hold certain beliefs, and they're within you, and you keep them, and so that's what you believe. If you don't do anything with it, does it truly impact your community? But if you're out there acting on these beliefs, then do they have a different right to expose you?
Well, I think that we've seen this time and time again. But Ernie, you mentioned something that stuck out to me earlier that I think we haven't touched on enough, is that the Attorney General going after this group, is he equally going after all groups that are calling out any ideology?
And he's a candidate for the Senate.
And that is the issue that I have.
Yeah.
713-440-8870. John from Rosenberg is on the line. John, what are your thoughts on this?
Hey, good morning, guys. Look, I'll be honest. As a Republican conservative, I'm really offended and upset about what Ken Paxton is doing. And I also think it's very rich for a guy that wants to talk about Christian values and this and that, who acts very unlike what he's preaching. And privacy is very sensitive, like if you're going to take your position and go after certain groups like that, that's just not right. And it's not within conservative principles. And I don't know if this is their play to discuss the public so much that they just give up on politics or what. But yeah, Ken Paxton is the last person on this planet that should be dictating who's right and who's wrong, So I'm very repulsed by it and deeply upset. And I also want to know what you guys think about what do we do as citizens other than vote? How do we, fight back, if you will, because this isn't right. And last thing I wanted to add about, the predator list and things like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I've read that there have been issues where individuals that weren't even supposed to be on the list ended up on that list, and it ruined their lives.
Yeah.
So I'll hang up and listen.
John, thank you for that. I think you also hit where I would always go with this, which is vote. Know who the candidates are, know what they stand for, and vote your conscience. And I'm going to say, don't be beholden to party. Think about the different candidates and align yourself with people who believe what you believe. That's the best way to go about it. And all too often we fall into party lines. Think who's best for you and who's helping you.
Well, when Ken Paxton was in a bit of hot water over people who were whistleblowers, didn't people go after the whistleblowers? And Ken Paxton was fine with that, wasn't he?
Interesting.
So he's fine with you doxing people that he considers enemies, but you're not going to dox people he doesn't consider an enemy. So once again, a two-faced lawsuit going on here.
And we did get a YouTube comment from Kiso9001. Yeah, you should be called out for it. People have the right to not shop somewhere based on the owner's beliefs. So I did want to say that.
Well, Jen in Clear Lake makes a point. It's just interesting that anti-abortion activists who committed arson are not being considered terrorists, but left-wing activists who've not committed violent crimes are being considered terrorists.
Yeah. Let's go back to the phone, 713-440-8870. Claudio from North Houston. Claudio, what's on your mind?
Yes, it's interesting that this is very similar to the actual gerrymandering cases. The legality of it is a question of intent. You can look at Ken Paxton's argument as political, yes, but the underlying fact is that it could be a question of intent on how if or they're breaking the law at all. So I would like the court systems to actually do a definitive answer on this instead of just saying yay or nay.
Claudio, thank you for that. And we're going to continue on the phone lines before we run out of time. 713-440-8870. Adrian from Sugar Land. Adrian, what's on your mind?
What is on my mind is this. If Ken Paxton is concerned about the democratic process, why is he protecting the identities of neo-Nazis? Is he one of them? That's one. Number two, if he's not one of them, why is he trying to make sure that these people are not exposed? If a gay person can be so exposed, can say, okay, I'm gay, okay, I'm who I am, why can't a racist person be exposed for who him or she is? And so it is with someone, for instance, if I think I've lost my train of thought. Well, that's it. Thank you.
Well, Adrian, I think what you're saying is this is a slippery slope. So any group that you don't agree with, you start putting their names on and their addresses and all their information out there. And by doing that, basically saying, I want everybody to go after them for whatever reason, for whatever political standpoint or social standpoint they have, you want them to feel the heat. And that is not what America is all about. And everyone should have a right to protest peacefully and to make their voices heard without fear of intimidation and fear of their life in some cases.
And especially from elected officials.
Especially from elected officials.
It is, to me, the fact that, if you are a public servant, you are there to
especially the Attorney
all,
General.
The Attorney General is supposed to be looking out for all Texans. And so to have somebody do that, you got to ask yourself.
Yeah. And it's very disturbing. I'll go back to something that I always preach about. I remember in a time, once you got elected to office, you didn't get affiliated with your party anymore. They were the Attorney General. They were the senator from the state of Texas. Now we always identify the Republican senator, the Republican congressperson, because we become so aligned with a political ideology as opposed to what Frank was saying, serving the people or use less.
Which, Ernie, I got to ask you, do you think that the media plays into those calling out, this is a Republican or this is a Democrat? Do you think that the media could be doing a better job at trying to find neutrality?
Initially, I would have said yes, and I've thought about that a lot lately. And I think you have to say it now because, unfortunately, it couches what they're saying. So when you say a Republican congressman said this, you bring with it all the baggage that comes with, the Republican Party is doing this, so they're saying that because that's aligning with this and that. Where I think in the past it was much less so, and I may be wrong and maybe just like romanticizing the past. It may have been always like this. So I think it's important now that you identify what party they're speaking from, the same way we identify sources in anything we report, because I think it does play into it. What do you think?
We're kind of coming around to Paxton's side on this, aren't we? In that these anti-fascist groups should not be doxing people in far-right groups. right? I mean, isn't that what
I
you're
think
saying?
partially what we're saying is
these far-right groups should be able to be neo-Nazis if they want to, and their private information should not be out there on the Antifa website so that people can go after them because of their neo-Nazi beliefs.
I think maybe to define or refine what you're saying a little bit more, we're saying equal justice across the board.
Across the board.
If you treat one group one way, you have to treat all groups the same. So if you allow somebody to put out information, you need to allow people to put out information. If you don't allow it, you need to not allow it, not by party or ideology. I think is that what we're saying?
That's correct.
Yeah.
But understand, Paxton is going after this group. He should go after all groups, I guess, is what you're saying.
Right.
Anyone
if that's your stance,
if you're going to go
support
against people who
cross-border.
dox, go against people who dox.
Yeah. I think that's what we're saying. Okay, we're getting a wrap here, so we're going to wrap, but more of this conversation will come up in the next segment.
Coming up on Hello Houston, we'll talk to Natalia Contreras, who covers election administration and voting access for Votebeat in partnership with the Texas Tribune about the Trump administration asking states to turn over their voter rolls. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
Metro is introducing a brand new fare system to the Houston region. Say hello to the Ride Metro Fare Card. It's the new way to ride. The Ride Metro fare system will replace the old Metro Q fare card and will make buying your bus and train fares easier than ever before. You'll be able to buy Ride Metro cards at all Metro ride stores, ticket vending machines, order online, and from a growing network of retailers throughout the region. When it comes to moving about Houston, we want you to choose Metro. Visit ridemetro.org/fare system.
Let's break that habit, folks. I'm Aisha Roscoe, host of Weekend Edition Sunday, where if you want to know what's going on in the world and why it matters, all you have to do is give your thumb a rest and perk up your ears. We've got the news, but we've also got curiosity, joy, and surprise. Tune in for Weekend Edition from NPR News.
Weekend Edition, Saturdays and Sundays from 7 to 9 a.m. on News 88.7.
Your support for Houston Public Media powers the programs you trust and rely on. And your employer may help your contribution go even further. Many employers sponsor matching gift programs, doubling or even tripling employee contributions. It's an easy way to maximize your impact on the programs you rely on. Search for your company and get started today at houstonpublicmedia.org/match.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Texas Mutual Insurance Company, a workers' compensation provider committed to handling claims to help injured workers get back to work. More at texasmutual.com/mutual care. Support for Houston Public Media comes from Metro, introducing the Ride Metro Fare Card. The Ride Metro fare system replaces the Metro Q fare card for bus and rail fares. Details at ridemetro.org/fare system.
And now back to Hello Houston. Join the conversation. Call now, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
President Trump's administration has asked states across the country to turn over their voter rolls, and Texas has complied, handing over data of millions of registered voters. Supporters say it's about enforcing election law, while critics warn it could threaten voter privacy and voting access. Joining us now is Natalia Contreras, who covers election administrations and voting access for Votebeat in partnership with the Texas Tribune. Natalia, welcome back to Hello Houston. Good to have you with us.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Now, Natalia, I want to know, what exactly did the Trump administration request from states? You know, we keep saying voter rolls, like we all just know election talk or, you know, how that process is. But for somebody who's not in the weeds of it, talk to us about what exactly the Trump administration requested, voter rolls, and how has Texas responded?
Yeah, so exactly what they wanted from each state is if you have registered to vote in Texas, you have filled out a voter registration card, which asks you for your full name, your address, your partial social security number, maybe your driver's license number, All of those things is exactly what the Trump administration wanted. And that's information that the state, of course, has of each individual voter. And as you mentioned, in Texas, that's more than 18 million registered voters. The interesting thing about this is that, and I've gotten a lot of emails from readers about this, how some of this information, it's already public, right? If you wanted to request the state's entire voter roll, you could get it. Actually, campaigns and candidates get that because they need to know who lives in the area that they're campaigning for, or, those districts that they want to represent. However, the information that is public and readily available for everybody is just people's names, their address, but you'll never get somebody's driver's license or someone's partial social security number, including their date of birth. Those three items allow people to really identify and track down somebody. So that is information that the state has turned over to the Trump administration, which is just very interesting that they have done this, given that, it is up to the states to conduct, voter list maintenance and clean up the voter rolls and do all of that. That process, that's up to the state. So it's very interesting that the federal government wants that type of information from everyone.
And that was essentially my follow-up. Have other presidents in the past made this type of request, or does this seem very unique?
I'm not sure that other presidents have done that type of request. It's just interesting because it is, the federal government right now, the Trump administration right now has said specifically that they want this information to ensure that each of the states are conducting voter list maintenance and they're cleaning up the voter rolls and that they're following the law. But it's interesting that they want to ensure that that happens because that authority is up to each individual state. It's not up to the federal government to ensure that that happens. In fact, it's up to each individual jurisdiction. So in Houston, that would be the voter registrar. In Harris County, who's the tax assessor collector. In my county, it's also the tax assessor collector. Some other areas have election administrators. It differs, right, from county to county. Even at the state level, and I've said this before in other interviews, it's important that people understand that our Secretary of State, our Texas Secretary of State, Jay Nelson, and our Texas Governor, Governor Abbott, do not have access to this information. They do not have the authority to go into our voter rolls and start deleting people or adding people into it. They do not have the authority to do that. That authority is up to each individual jurisdiction that maintains each local voter roll. So the fact that the federal government wants to go through and conduct an analysis of our voter roll to see who's in there legally and who isn't, or who may be in there who isn't eligible, it's interesting, and it may raise questions about the legality of this. But to go back to your original question, I'm not sure that other administrations have done this. It's just interesting that this is something, elections in our country are very local, are not, federalized. And so it's just interesting that the federal government wants to go in and take a look at this in this way.
But nobody is saying, at least as far as I can tell, that they want to add or delete people from the rolls. They want access to see what's there. From where you sit, and if you want to speculate this out, why do they want this information? Yes, they may say because they want to do an audit and make sure it's a clean roll. What else could they use this for? Why would this be something important for them to attain?
Yeah, and like you said, just to totally speculate about this, it's unclear why else they would want this. I have talked to attorneys in the past. There are active lawsuits about this, and also there are active lawsuits about the federal government using Department of Homeland Security databases that they're using to match against voter rolls to see who may be a citizen, who may not be a citizen. But one thing that one attorney once told me is that not only do they have your name and your address, but they also have your date of birth. They have your driver's license number. So, might they be using this to identify where people live, if they have moved, where they have moved? Who knows? I mean, this is just very sensitive information, identifiable information. The fact that they have access to your name, your date of birth, and your social security number can really pin you down, because in our country, there are so many people that, even if you believe it or not, they do share the same date of birth and first name and last name. That's why voter rolls are so tricky and hard to keep up with, and people move constantly. But if you have that additional social security number and a driver's license number, that could really pin down who someone is. So just to kind of speculate, I'm just over here thinking, well, they can really just track down somebody if that's what they wanted to do. That's, really helpful information to do that. But it's very unclear at this point what the federal government intends to do with this. I haven't seen out of Texas just yet a lawsuit, anyone suing the Secretary of State's office over this transfer of this type of data, but it wouldn't surprise me if that were to come here soon.
Well, I can see they would need some information if they were trying to get clear on who might be voting that's dead. So if you're trying to find out if there are dead people on the voter rolls, you're going to need their social security number. So I get that, but that's a very, very small part of this. Mm-hmm. What concerns some people is that they would take particular roles and say, here are all the people that voted for Democrats. We should send all of these to the IRS and have their taxes audited. And using that information to make life a little harder on Democrat voters versus Republican voters. What do you think about that?
That could be one thing that could be possible. I mean, like I said, unclear, but the possibilities with the federal government and officials having this information are really endless. This is just very sensitive information. And the Secretary of State's office initially, when they first got this request last summer, they said that they were going to handle this request from the Department of Justice as a public information request. So initially there was some intent of just sharing what's already public with the federal government. However, they ended up ultimately sharing, and this happened in December 23rd, I believe. They ended up just turning in everything that the Department of Justice requested. Even if they would have done it, even if they would have done a partial transfer of that information, like just what's available in public, that would have still been a violation of the Privacy Act. I mean, states can't just handle a request like that from the federal government as the public information request, like any other request.
And I'm going to jump in here just to clarify the point that the voter rolls do not tell you how people voted. I'm not sure. Do they say what you're registered for primaries? Is that on there though?
It'll tell you in which primary you voted. But it won't. If you voted in the primary, if you didn't vote in the primary, then if you're an independent in Texas and you're not voting in the primary elections, then it won't say that. But it'll show if you have voted in a primary and which primary you voted, that type of thing. But you would have to actually request that additional information if you wanted that specific information. It doesn't already come with your initial request. And if you do want that additional information, that will cost you more money. I mean, it's also not as easy and cheap to obtain the voter roll.
Now, Natalia, quick question for you. Was Texas legally required to comply with this request, or could they have said, we will give you only a certain amount of information, and have other states complied with the administration's request?
Yeah, so they could have said, absolutely not. We're not sharing anything with you. The federal government, the Department of Justice, sent over a memorandum of understanding that the state had to sign. And, after signing it, they had to turn over the data, I believe, within a week. And that's what Texas ended up doing. Other states are doing different things. There are other states that are completely refusing. I believe California and Michigan totally refused. They were sued by the federal government. Judges have dismissed those lawsuits and have, granted that decision to the state if they wanted to turn that data over or not. Other states have shared partial information, like I was saying earlier, just what's publicly available. And of course, the Department of Justice is coming back and requesting everything. So no, Texas was not entitled or required to submit this information. They could have said no. But when the Department of Justice sent over that memorandum of understanding that kind of outlined what they had to do, the minute they signed it, they had to kind of comply with it, and they did.
Hey, Natalia, we got a text. I read a news article that said they are going to use outdated naturalized citizen data to claim non-citizens are voting. Have you gotten any inkling of that or something similar?
So another reason why the sharing of this data is a little concerning and why we should be scrutinizing what the federal government is going to be doing with this is because, in last year around October, we reported that, Texas actually used the SAVE database. The SAVE database is a federal database that the Department of Homeland Security runs that has information about all immigrants in the country and their status, right? If they have a green card, if they have a work visa, if they're here on asylum, those kinds of things. And if they have naturalized, if they've become citizens, that data is supposed to also be updated. And so the Trump administration made this database free to use and available for states in order to compare it to their voter rolls, to see who may be on there, who shouldn't be on there, right? And so Texas ran our voter roll against that database last fall and found that more than 2,000 people were potential, quote unquote, potential non-citizens on the rolls. When I started asking individual counties what they had found, counties were finding that several of those folks that were flagged as potential non-citizens were actually U.S. citizens, which leads me to believe that even those databases that the federal government has are not current. They're not perfect. And so for us to be comparing data, the data that we have right now, and in Texas, as you guys know, it's not perfect because we also don't have online voter registration. So our data is already not great. And then comparing it to databases that we are seeing are also not fully accurate. There's just risks there that you can flag a voter in Texas as a potential non-citizen on the rolls who's actually become a citizen, in the last few years. And it hasn't been updated. And if they don't respond to a notice from their county that, they have been flagged, then they get removed from the rolls after a certain time. So that is the risk of all of this data sharing and comparing, because these databases that we're relying on are just not great to begin with.
Do you also think, Natalia, that another risk could essentially just even be psychological, that moves like this affect voter confidence, even participation, especially among communities that are already kind of wary of the government?
Well, I will tell you that in the curse of all of this reporting, and even election officials told me whenever last year the state, identified several potential non-citizens on the rolls, election officials are required to send those folks a notice, right? Telling them, hey, there may be an issue with your voter registration. Can you come and prove that you are a U.S. citizen, right? And so that, we can clear this up. When election officials were doing that across the state, they were telling me they were fearful that they were going to have to remove eligible voters because of what's happening right now across the country. And they were like, voters are not going to come to a county building and show us their papers. Like, voters are not going to respond to this. And a lot of them didn't. In one county, at least in Denton County in North Texas, I know that they did, and they provided proof to the election administrator there. And there were several out of the ones that were flagged in that county that turned out to be U.S. citizens. But several other election officials just never heard of anyone, and they weren't surprised by that. So, number one, there's a lot of fear right now among voters, especially voters who have recently naturalized, right? But another thing, I think that this, I have noticed at least, and I've gotten emails from readers who are actively like, okay, what is going to happen to my registration? How do I go and check, that I'm still there, that I'm still eligible? But I do think that there is not only a fear there, but just kind of a growing concern of what's happening, and a growing concern with our process in general. I mean, in 2020, I think the growing concern was that our process wasn't working the way that it should be, which, it has been, and it's been heavily scrutinized. But now I think, in Texas, we already have a hard time getting people to go vote, and so are they fearful? Are new voters just also, thinking twice about heading out to the polls? That's something that I'm constantly, as we head into this election, wondering how all of this, may impact turnout.
Right. Really quickly before we run out of
does.
time, and to jump on also what Celeste was saying there, simply the idea that they're asking for these roles puts more distrust in the system by the voters, hearing, well, if the federal government thinks there may be a problem here, that helps support their narrative. Quickly, doesn't the IRS already have access to most of this information anyway? So they know our name, our address, our social security numbers?
They do.
Do they know how we vote? But
well, they know if we make political
and that
donations.
also makes me wonder, like, are agencies like communicating well with each other, right? Like, does that happen? I mean, so I am just the thing with the IRS is, though, I think the agencies that would have the most updated information about you would be also our DMVs. I mean, they know if you have moved, and in Texas now, the Texas Department of Public Safety is required, if you have moved and another state reaches out to DPS about someone who has moved, DPS is supposed to tell them, they lived here, we can confirm that they were here, and, they can remove them from the list here and then let them know, and vice versa. That's something that just got approved this past legislative session. So, these agencies, motor vehicle agencies have the most updated information if you've moved as well. So the driver's license number can help a lot.
And we did receive an email about voter rolls. I'm deeply concerned this and see it as a privacy violation when especially fed into the AI of larger databases that are sold and also possessed by Elon Musk. There's no protection for political views. And if at the next job interview, they can know already what your voter affiliation is and or how you voted, this can impact whether you get a job and ultimately is used as voter intimidation. Under Texas Bill 5180, it's not that expensive to find out exactly who you cast your ballot for either, so it's not out of the question. So, Natalia, thank you so much for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Coming up, we're going to speak with one of the stars of the Alley Theater's production of Real Women Have Curves. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Most of the U.S. is
Houston, say hello to the Ride Metro Fare Card. It's the new way to ride. The Ride Metro Fare System will replace the old Metro Q Fare Card and will make buying your bus and train fares easier than ever before. Visit ridemetro.org/fare system.
Into the long-lasting harm from toxic carpet mills. Next time on 1A.
You can listen to 1A coming up today at 2 p.m.
Hi, I'm Manoush Zamarodi, and our world is changing so fast. On the TED Radio Hour, we invite innovators, researchers, and activists to unpack those changes with us.
Just about all companies are becoming technology companies or technology-enabled companies.
Listen to the TED Radio Hour from NPR every week for conversations that will deepen your understanding of our changing world.
The TED Radio Hour, Tuesdays at 10 p.m. on News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from DeCamera, presenting Brooklyn Rider, Frida's Dreams, with the premiere of a string quartet by Gabriela Lena Frank, inspired by Frida Kahlo, February 20th at Hobby Center. Tickets at DeCamera.com.
Support comes from the law firm McFarland PLLC, eminent domain attorneys focused exclusively on representing landowners against the government's taking of private property for public use across the state of Texas. More at McFarlandPLLC.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manoush, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Real Women Have Curves is a comedic 1990 play that inspired the critically acclaimed 2002 film of the same name. Currently running at the Alley Theater through February 15th, the play, which follows 5 Latina women as they navigate the pressures of body image, immigration, and cultural expectations, is a celebration of resilience, community, and self-acceptance. To tell us more about the play, we welcome Houston-born actress Brenda Palestina, who plays the main character, Anna, in Alley Theater's production of The Real Women Have Curves. Brenda, welcome to Hello Houston.
Thanks for having me.
So I guess we have to start by how well do you know the movie? Mm-hmm. And if you didn't know it well, did you go back and watch it before, or are you trying to be your own Anna?
Yeah, I definitely went back and watched it because I didn't really know it that well, to be honest. But the good thing about the play is that it's quite different from the movie, actually. Yeah. The play came first, and I really feel that it's source material for the movie. Mm-hmm. So the play is just the 5 women in the sewing factory in East LA, and the movie obviously includes like the rest of her family. It includes a lot of men. Anna has boyfriends, and you also see her in school and her teacher. So there's a bit more of like the other world involved there, and the play is a lot more just focused on the women.
But does that shade your interpretation then? When you see what somebody else has thought of for backstory and ancillary story and surrounding story, then when you read the words on the page, are you interpreting them a little differently? Maybe?
No, I tried to not really pay attention to the movie, honestly, in terms of, my work on the play, because I'm of the mind that like the answers are in the scripts that I'm given, right? So that's where I go.
And that's what I was thinking about. How did you prepare to step into this character, and how different is she from you yourself?
I relate a lot to Anna, so like I feel a close kinship to her.
Sure.
Like I relate to her and her being this really like young, ambitious person who already sees the world in a more expansive way than maybe some of the people in her life do. She knows the world is bigger than her community, and she wants to see that. And I can also relate to her as this young feminist who wants to preach the gospel to anyone who will listen, and say like, I know this, like, please, if I could just teach you.
Yeah.
But then I also relate to her. I mean, she's 18 and I'm a bit older than that. And, I relate to her sort of like being humbled in that moment and, I actually don't know everything. And maybe these ladies who are older than me and have lived more life than me have something to offer. Yeah. So when preparing, a lot of it was coming from me, but I'm a big fan of text work, just studying that script and seeing where the answers lie. And
Well, it seems like the title, Real Women Have Curves. I mean, there's some actual talking about a woman's body in this play. But isn't it somewhat metaphorical that life has curves and it takes a real woman and a real human being to go against those curves that life throws you?
Yeah, 100%. And, the title, I think, has... it can raise some flags for people today in 2026 of like, well, all women, you know, you don't have to have curves to be a woman or whatever.
Right, it's not a body thing.
No, I think it goes beyond that, right? And it's sort of the curves aspect in terms of the body is that no woman is fitting into, you know, this picture perfect model of what a woman is. Like every woman has curves or dimples or dips or whatever it might be. But to your point, yes, also that, you know, life is not rigid. Things are fluid, and that means in terms of gender, that means in terms of body, that means in terms of abilities or status, right? Like things are just not as simple and straight line as we might want them to be.
You got to be you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I've got a question for you to go back to the performer in you. When you have a character, is it easier for you as an actor to do a character that is more similar to who you are or more distant from you?
Definitely more similar.
Yeah.
Like that, you know, there's a certain level of like, okay, I can bring myself to this and that be, you know, 50% of the work there, right? And then there's the rest of the work. And then sometimes when you have a character who's a little more distant from you, that's where I feel like I might lean more on research of other people who are like that and like to find that connection of, all right, what is my linking thing to this character?
Isn't that kind of the fun of it all, though?
It is fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's fun regardless. You know, it's all good.
Do you have your eye on certain projects? And was this one of them?
This was definitely one of them. But funnily enough, is I'm a director as well, and that's kind of where a lot of my passion in the theater lies. And so when the Alley announced their season, I was really interested in assistant directing it. And I was like, I just need to be involved in this project. And so when they sent me the casting call, I thought, yeah, I'll audition. I don't think I'm going to get it. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that I'm also interested in assistant directing, you know? And they were like, okay, cool. And then obviously went through the call.
And now you're the star.
Yeah, which I'm happy to do.
Brenda, you talk about how you really, Anna's character resonates a lot with you. But how does Anna stretch you?
Well, she's very confident, and she, I mean, I don't think it's a secret. We all undress on stage, and there's this certain level of
vulnerability.
Vulnerability and rallying energy from Anna that, like, I can both relate to, but is also a stretch for me in that she's 18. And when I reflect on myself at 18, I don't think that I had that kind of bravery and courage. Right. And so sort of this energy that she has of, I know who I am and I know what I want, and I actually want to bring you all into it as well, is this like really powerful force from her that I'm like drawing on her energy to do, and it's special. Why
do you think that it's so important today for Latinas and Latina women, you know, for them to have body autonomy, that story is still being told?
Yeah, I mean, we all talked about it when we were getting to the undressing scene, and all of us are fairly confident women and successful in our own right, and we all still had issues with this idea of putting our bodies on display, right? And we all kind of talked about why, and sort of shared all of our upbringings and kind of the influences on why something like this is really hard. And so I think it's important because every woman, and really every man, and anyone of any gender is constantly facing pressures to look a certain way or behave in a certain way or even feel a certain way about their body. Even now with like body positivity or body acceptance, there's pressure to like be okay with your body as it is. And if you sort of feel negatively about it, then you want to even battle that. So I think that, you know, we're not far from any of the like really harsh critiques. I mean, the first supermodel was in the 80s, you know, and so I think it's important for anyone, really of any gender, but especially women, to see 5 of us on stage who all have different body types and just kind of owning that and saying it's fine if your body looks like this.
Brenda Palestina is a Houston-born actress currently playing Anna in Alley Theater's production of Real Women Have Curves. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Real Women Have Curves is running now through Sunday, February 15th. For more information, visit alleytheater.org. And coming up, we're going to continue discussing today's top headlines. We'll also be joined by a representative from MAD, who will discuss the HALT Drunk Driving Law. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from St. Arnold Brewing Company, a place for corporate events on tap, meeting rooms, AV equipment, and full catering available. More at starnold.com.
Mostly cloudy today. Will warm up to about 75. Mostly cloudy. Slight chance of rain tonight, and some fog moves in overnight. 73. And this is your NPR station, KUHF Houston. News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, city officials have proposed a new on-demand heavy trash system to help make pickups faster and more reliable. We'll discuss this and more as we continue diving into today's top stories. I'm Frank Billingsley.
And I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman. We'll also talk with representatives from Mothers Against Drunk Driving, who will discuss the HALT Drunk Driving Law, which aims to equip every new car with anti-drunk driving technology by 2030.
And I'm Ernie Manous. Plus, we'll also explore the history of one of Houston's most celebrated and recognizable arts institutions, the Ensemble Theatre.
Also, we want to hear from you. Give us a call or send us a text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us live on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Janine Herbst. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick is defending his visits to Jeffrey Epstein's island in 2012 in testimony to the Senate Appropriations Committee today. Here he is in an exchange with Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen.
When you visited the private island, did you see anything inappropriate during that visit?
The only thing I saw with my wife and my children and the other couple and their children was staff who worked for Mr. Epstein on that island.
The Commerce Secretary is facing bipartisan criticism over his ties to Epstein, who had been convicted of sexually abusing minors. Lutnick appears in the most recent release of the Justice Department files on Epstein, and a growing number of Democrats are calling on him to resign. And Republican Congressman Thomas Massey also called for his ouster, but the White House has defended him. Chinese company BYD is suing the Trump administration over tariffs. NPR's Emily Fang reports the automaker is asking for a refund of tariffs paid since last spring.
BYD's U.S. subsidiaries have sued the Trump administration in federal U.S. trade court, saying the tariffs it and other U.S.-based companies have had to pay on imported goods are unlawful. This is all in the run-up to a high-stakes Supreme Court case that could be decided this month. Both the U.S. Court of International Trade and a U.S. Federal Appeals Court have already determined President Trump overstepped his powers and using U.S. legislation to impose tariffs on dozens of countries. Now the Supreme Court must decide whether to uphold these decisions. And if it affirms them, companies like China's BYD could very well reclaim a good chunk of the more than $130 billion in U.S. customs collected since last April. Emily Fang, NPR News.
Former Congressman Tom Malinowski conceded today to challenger Ana Lilia Mejia in the closely watched special election Democratic primary to fill the congressional seat vacated by New Jersey Governor Mikey Sherrill. From member station WNYC, Mike Hayes has more.
The race was too close to call last Thursday night, and Election Day ended with 2 of the 11 candidates in the Democratic primary in NJ's 11th district locked in a tight race at the top. Days later, Mejia leads Malinowski by just about 600 votes, with several thousand votes still outstanding. On Tuesday morning, however, Malinowski congratulated Mejia on a, quote, hard-won victory. The Associated Press has not yet officially declared a winner of the race. For NPR News, I'm Mike Hayes in Mount Laurel, New Jersey.
Wall Street's trading higher at this hour. The Dow is up 234 points. You're listening to NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. 7 candidates are running in a special election to fill a seat on the Houston City Council. Councilmember Abby Kamen is stepping down to run for Harris County Attorney. News 88.7's Dominic Anthony Walsh reports voters in District C will likely be suffering from election fatigue.
For District C voters who also live in the 18th Congressional District, this race and its likely runoff will bring their 5th and 6th elections in 6 months.
I think anybody that overlaps in CD 18 is definitely going to experience voter fatigue.
Renee Cross is executive director of the University of Houston's Hobby School of Public Affairs. She says candidates will need to motivate voters, though that could be easier in District C than other places. The district stretches from the Greater Heights through Montrose to Meyerland, home to a large share of older and highly educated residents.
So for that reason, yes, I'm sure there will be some voter fatigue involved, but I don't think it will hit this particular district as hard as it might a different district.
The special election is slated for April 4th. I'm Dominic Anthony Walsh, News 88.7.
We interviewed all 7 city council candidates. You can read more about them at houstonpublicmedia.org. Memorial Hermann Health System in Houston is offering buyouts to some of its employees as it deals with mounting financial pressures. This comes as Enhanced Affordable Care Act subsidies have expired and major cuts to Medicaid are taking effect. Vivian Ho is a chair in health economics at Rice University's Baker Institute. She says Memorial Hermann is likely just the first local health institution to make that request because it's the biggest.
It has a large number of patients who were getting coverage under Obamacare. Many of those people have lost their coverage. Memorial Hermann also takes care of a large percentage of patients who are uninsured as well as Medicaid patients.
Ho is a guest on Houston Matters. She says other big health institutions may follow Memorial Hermann's lead. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. Fisher is committed to helping clients stay on track to reach their financial goals and enjoy a comfortable retirement. FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hello, Houston.
Hello.
We're back on a Tuesday, a February Tuesday.
Yeah.
Which one? Which one, Celeste? Which Tuesday?
Today is February 10th. We want to thank you for joining us. I've said this before, but there are a lot of places you could be or spending time, but you chose to be here with us. And so we appreciate your time and you calling in at 713-440-8870. Don't forget, you can also go to Instagram and follow us at hellohouston.show. And as well, we get emails from you guys, and you guys can go to talk@hellohouston.org if perhaps after the show we said something or you have a thought that comes to mind, you can email us.
Speaking of don't forget, Valentine's Day is Saturday.
That's right. Don't forget.
Just my reminder.
Go get those roses.
What are you doing for Valentine's Day?
Well, we'll be in Mardi Gras.
Oh, yeah,
so
you're
we're doing
doing
Mardi Gras for Valentine's Day.
I will be at the Houston Grand Opera for Family Day.
Yes.
So I'm taking my kiddos. We're going to go do that, and we're going to go see Hansel and Gretel.
Oh, nice.
Friday night, I got to do the broadcast feed from Concert of Arias, and one of the guests that I got to talk to, he is going to play the witch on Family Day. They're very excited about Family Day, and there was a lot to promote about it, and it just sounds like a blast.
It's going to be awesome, and I'm excited because, as a parent, you're always thinking, I want to expose my child to the arts or, sports or music, whatever it might be, literature. And so to be able to have an organization like the Houston Grand Opera recognize that the importance of bringing children into the arts at a young age is really awesome. So we're excited. But, over the weekend, I emceed the gala for the parish school, and I had two ladies come up to me. So I think Aunt Nancy's listening to us, and Linda's listening to us, and they said they really enjoyed it.
It's like Romper Room, Frank. She's going to pick up her mirror, and she's going to see the people watching in the audience.
Little Tommy and little Cindy.
Celeste is too young to know what we're talking
I don't
about.
know, but it's funny.
Hey, weather's out there.
It always is.
It's
always
cloudy,
is.
Frank.
We may get a quick shower overnight. Look right now. We've got some clouds.
Oh.
It's been a little foggy in the mornings. That's been burning off. And so we've got now some clouds. But temperatures are nice and mild the way I like them.
Yeah.
I like highs of 80, lows of 65. That's my
I'll
ideal.
take highs mid-70s. It's more me.
I can take 80.
Okay.
Alex Garza says, I'll be sitting at Churrasco's all by myself.
Oh, Galentine's.
Yes.
How
I'm
about-
going to a Galentine's today.
What is
There you go.
Galentine's?
That's when the girls get together that don't have a Valentine's date.
But
right?
Celeste has a
Am I right?
Valentine's
Is
Day.
Yeah, I do. I always have, but it's still friends. We get
Still
together,
fun.
our friends.
But you didn't say what
you're
you're
an-
doing Valentine's night.
You're an ally of this.
Valentine. Yeah.
an ally of the gals.
An ally of friendship.
Yeah.
Valentine's night. I don't really have any friends. I don't have any friends. I don't have any plans.
Is Dan in town?
Dan's not in town, so I'll be hanging out probably with my kids.
Yeah. See, I've got the problem that every year I always hosted the same gala. And this year I'm not hosting it.
I know the gala. Didn't I host it with you a couple of years?
Yes, and we've
But
hosted
Ernie,
it together.
Question: Who's host? Is somebody else hosting?
No, I don't think they're doing it this year. And if they are, they didn't call. But it always solved my Valentine problem. It was the River Oaks. We went for dinner. It was always nice, always lovely, always looked like it was a big deal, and I didn't have to do anything.
And you got to dress up.
Dress
and
up.
fabulous.
Now this year. So, folks, if you have ideas for what we can do for Valentine's Day, or you want to suggest over at our YouTubers, you can add your comments there and enrich all of us about what you're doing for Valentine's Day. I'd love to see what
question
people
for
are doing.
you guys.
Yes.
There is a lot of pressure on Valentine's.
I was going to say, are you all Valentine? I know. I have friends that hate Valentine's. They're like, absolutely not. My husband doesn't give me anything, and yada yada. I'm
Well,
like,
I have to admit, for years, because going out as two men on Valentine's Day made things pretty obvious back in the 90s.
Yeah.
So we didn't do it. It was we were too afraid, I guess, of being so out and about on
in a
Valentine's Day.
romantic setting, on a romantic day.
Yeah, and
I
so
would
that changed, but it took, for some people it probably hasn't. There are probably guys and girls out there that have same-sex partners, and they're like, no, we can't go out on Valentine's Day because people we might run into my parents or something. You never know.
I would say, and probably people will prove me wrong as soon as I say this and it comes out of my mouth, but I've never been a big fan of holidays that have certain expectations tied to them. I'm not a big fan of New Year's Eve. I'm not a big fan of Valentine's
Interesting,
Day.
but you really like Christmas,
I
which
love
I would
Christmas.
say has the biggest expectation.
But Christmas
you
is
have to
within
give
your house.
gifts.
It's within your family. It's what you want to do.
What do you like? Flag Day?
No, I like Halloween.
President's Day.
I like Christmas. I love Thanksgiving. I think I'm noticing a trend of food related to it. But the things that have a lot of expectation around, like what you're going to do here for the rest of the year, what you're going to do to show your love for I don't like those.
Love Valentine's Day. I'm a hopeless romantic, and I like fresh flowers. I like hugs and snuggles.
It's like a funeral parlor in her office. I have to tell you, she's always getting flowers.
Getting maudlin. All right, coming up, we're going to talk to representatives from MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. They're going to join us to talk about the HALT, H-A-L-T, the HALT Drunk Driving Law, which aims to equip every new car with anti-drunk driving technology by 2030.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, but first, let's have some headlines, Celeste.
Yes, thanks, Frank. Heavy trash relief is on the way. City leaders unveiled a proposed on-demand heavy trash system at a town hall meeting last night, replacing the current route-based schedule with appointment-based pickups aimed at faster, more reliable service. Officials said the system will apply only to delayed heavy trash and tree waste pickups and will not cover illegal dumping. Instead, Houston Solid Waste plans to expand staffing and create a separate team dedicated to responding to illegal dumping complaints. Under the proposal, each address would be eligible for up to 4 heavy trash pickups per year. The on-demand program is expected to roll out next month, with additional details on scheduling and implementation to be released soon. Residents are encouraged to continue reporting heavy trash delays and illegal dumping through existing city channels during the transition. Do you think an on-demand system will actually fix Houston's heavy trash delays, or is something else needed? and 4 pickups per year. Is that enough? Give us a call, 713-440-8870.
That gives me a yay and a boo.
Well, it's a start.
I love the idea you can schedule a heavy trash, because I have no idea ever when heavy trash is happening. It's a boo, only 4 times a year. You know, people may need it more.
Quarterly?
I don't know. But I never use it. So for me, it's a
I've used it.
Yeah.
It seemed like it was the last Wednesday of each month.
Mm-hmm.
But it was
Depending on
every
where
other.
you lived.
Like the last Wednesday was either garden debris, like tree limbs and things like that were too heavy and you didn't want to put them in the trash, or the next last Wednesday would be for heavy trash, like that old Zenith television you've been meaning to get rid of.
I think it's fascinating. I know that we've had so much trouble with trash pickup in this area, and a lot of stories have been about it, and maybe moving this to this type of service then therefore will free up for regular trash pickup to be more in control again. It feels like we've been a little off cycle a lot.
Well, especially Fourth Ward, they've had all kinds of problems with illegal dumping. I mean, the whole neighborhood starts to look like a dumpster. Yeah. So they've got to do something. Like I said, this is at least a start in that direction, and the people that can make decisions are making decisions.
I've been really thinking about the illegal dumping because I've been seeing it quite a bit being reported by multiple news outlets in our area, and it really is an issue, and it seems to me like it would be an issue that would have an easy solution. Just put a security guard, which I understand who would essentially pay for this, but have a police officer out there just waiting. And if you're coming down, hey, keep going or I'm about to give you a ticket.
Well, and then they go down a mile and then
they drop it. Yeah. 713-440-8870. Jack from Montrose is online. Jack, what do you think?
Well, as president of the Neartown Montrose Super Neighborhood, this is a concern that the city hasn't done the education. I think this system may be the actual answer, but the fact that it's still not on their website, we've got 2.4 million people in this city. Majority of the people have no idea this is happening. And you cannot report, you cannot call for somebody else's address. So how do you know if trash has been out there for a month or two, whether they called it in? So I think it's a great idea, but there's still so much more to come out of this in educating the public and making this work correctly. I mean, we still have problems with the fact that we don't have enough people working solid waste. The budget was cut $2 million last year, and it's still, we still got problems, although they've made massive improvements on picking up the green and the black cans.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hopefully people like yourself go to city council meetings and make your views known so that they are fully aware of this, because you make some very valid points.
Jack?
I was last night at the town hall meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And
they're still, they still haven't given us the details on how this is going to work.
Well, as I say, the proof is in the pudding, and we'll be watching to see how it actually rolls out. Jack, thanks for calling. 713-440-8870. We have Mark from Alief. Mark, what's on your mind?
Well, I think it's a great idea. We'll have to wait, of course, see how it's implemented, but I think it's a great idea, and that at least in my neighborhood, for the last 2 years with the delayed pickups, there's been garbage, heavy trash garbage on the side of the street nonstop for 2 years. And a lot of it has to do with people being confused whether it's trash month or whether it's heavy debris month. And, there's a language barrier there, too, on people not understanding. Even the homeowners association put out, you'll be fined if, and then I had people saying, oh, they say it's fine. And, because they just don't understand.
Yeah. That's interesting. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You will receive a fine. And they literally talking to my neighbor when he's putting out the trash. I'm like, hey, man, you can't, it's like going to be 2 months before they come pick that up. He goes, no, right here it says it'd be fine.
Yeah.
And, but hopefully, they do a good job. I think if you have more than 4 times that you need heavy trash in a year, you might as well just take it to the dump.
Yeah. Sounds
Mark,
like it.
thank you for that. 713-440-8870. I often write, he brings up an interesting point too. So if you put the heavy trash out and you call for pickup and there's a delay in pickup because they're backed up, what happens in your homeowners association if you have one and they fine for things being out too long? What kind of issues? It'll be interesting to see how quickly they can respond.
Yeah.
And there's certain times, as you know, Frank, when more people suddenly have heavy trash after storms, after probably Christmas holidays, certain times. And so I wonder if that'll slow down the whole system. It'll be interesting to see how it works.
713-440-8870.
You want to move on?
Yeah, let's move on.
Okay, we're going into an area I love. We're talking polls and voting. So here we go. The Texas Tribune is reporting that Republican Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton and Democrat U.S. Representative Jasmine Crockett are leading their respective Senate primary races, according to a new poll published on Monday, just over a week before the start of early voting, which is February 17th. In a statewide sample of 550 likely Republican primary voters conducted between January 20th and January 31st, Paxton led incumbent U.S. Senator John Cornyn by 7 percentage points. Across the aisle, a similar poll of 550 likely Democratic primary voters showed Crockett running ahead of Representative James Tallarico by 8 percentage points. The survey's findings are a change from recent polls that found both races to be neck and neck. Quick programming note, we are scheduled to have Representative Jasmine Crockett as a guest on our program later this week. In both primaries, 12% of respondents said that they are still undecided. The poll has a margin of error of minus 4 percentage points, plus or minus 4 percentage points. Interesting, huh?
Yes. I want to get to this point. I have seen advertising suggesting that Republicans are backing Jasmine Crockett and giving her tons of money for advertising because they want her to win, because they feel like she will never win against the Republican running for Texas Attorney General, whereas James Tallarico actually has a shot at winning. So they want her. So her support is coming not largely from, but to some degree from Republicans.
And that happens often when they pull these things out and they look and they say, it'd be easier to beat this person, so let's get them into the slot so we can beat them. And this was an early idea that was tossed around that Jasmine Crockett would have an easier job of winning the primary because she's such a well-known Democrat, but would have a harder time in the general election. But then we saw polling that said Tallarico was either tied with or doing a little bit better than Jasmine, and now the polling has shifted again. And I wonder how much of that has to do with the blogger who released the story talking about a conversation she had off the record with James Tallarico in which he criticized Colin Allred, and that got a lot of attention. And because of the time period when this poll was taken, it may have impacted that decision-making process.
Well, it'd be an interesting question to ask her. I suspect her answer would be that she's out there hitting the trail and people are hearing her.
Yep.
And that's why she's leading. But wasn't the last poll just last week and Tallarico was ahead by 9 points?
That's what I thought.
That was one right before this one.
Yeah, and then this one comes out
interesting.
and she's ahead by, that's a 17-point swing.
I'm going to go back to it all goes down to turnout. Whichever one can get their voters to turn out, because we are so bad at voting. If you can mobilize your voters to show up at the polls during early voting and during the runoff primary elections, that's who's going to win.
So let me ask you this, Ernie. Is it in your favor or does it work against you to be ahead? Because if you're way ahead, your voters may say, she's going to win. I don't have to bother to go vote.
That's a philosophy. That's why you'll often hear candidates who are in the lead say, you got to get trying to keep their voters motivated. It's
we
too
all thought
easy to
Hillary
say.
was going to win, didn't we?
Yep, that's part of it. You know what? There's another story, too, tied to all of this. You may have missed it yesterday, but Democrat Amanda Edwards has suspended her campaign for the new Texas 18th congressional seat after being defeated in the special election. But her name, this is important, will still be on the ballot because it's so late in the process, but she is not officially running even if you see her name.
But has she endorsed anyone?
No, she has not. Meaning Christian Menefee will face off against Congressman Al Green, who is now running in the 18th after last year's redistricting event, whatever I want to call that. The Democratic primary election is on March 3rd. So we've got the primary begins on February 17th for early voting, and then the actual election day is March 3rd. So what are your thoughts on the recent polls?
I think Amanda had to drop out. I mean, she was pretty soundly defeated by Chris.
Right.
And kind of the polite thing to do, if there's politeness in politics any longer, is to say, you won this, you need me to get away and out of the lane. So, and that's what she's done, and I respect her for that.
I would say one of the things that to keep in mind, too, is that it's a new group of voters, too. And so you've got to then look at them, because what was the Texas 18th last month is not the same Texas 18th next month.
Right,
so it's
right.
different voters, different voting pool, and different folks that have different allegiances. 713-440-8870. Elvin from the 3rd Ward is on the line. Elvin, what's on your mind?
How you doing, guys? It's good to be talking to you again. So, what I was thinking about is when Celeste and you guys were talking about the dumping, and I think that's just really great what the city is doing, the on-demand services, because I'm a big stickler of a city as large as Houston to have its own, essentially, systems, internal systems that use some of the technology that even our delivery apps use to be able to dispatch city services. And I have an idea. Instead of having a security guard, let's just say that person makes $60,000 a year. That would mean that that's what the city would have to pay for the oversight of that dumping area. Well, I have a better system. We have a more tokenized system, not necessarily a blockchain, but something that's managed a little bit more efficiently by the city or even a private entity, something I might do. But the point is that you could actually spend a fraction of that cost and have citizens, you can put up cameras in those areas, citizens report dumping, etc. They redeem some of these city tokens, and that's a way of being able to create incentivizing good citizenry at a cheaper cost around the city.
Yeah. Alvin brings up a good point. Alvin, thanks for joining us on Hello Houston. He brings up a good point. I mean, with nowadays and the fact that we have so much technology that you can be implementing, why is the city not implementing this in certain areas where there is high levels of dumping?
Mm-hmm. Good
well,
question.
Speaking of which, Chris on YouTube says, easy solution if you frequently have heavy trash. If you get along with your neighbors, take your 3 nearest neighbors. One of you call it in. Everyone puts their heavy trash at that house for that cycle. So you have 16 chances a year to get picked
that's
up.
smart.
Yeah, share a pile.
Yeah,
share a pile. That's actually a solid plan right there.
Yeah, and I got neighbors I get along with, so we can all do that.
But again, 713-440-8870. Let's go to Sophia from Southwest Houston. Sophia, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hello.
Hello.
By the way, I did like to say about heavy trash. You can make appointments now because I live in Brayburn Glen where there are many vacant lots now, and people have been dumping their trash in vacant lots. So Edward Howard made it possible for us to make appointments to have our heavy trash picked up.
Okay.
I'm a Valentine's planner because my husband passed away, and for us, Valentine's was a special time. And I don't want to get...
Sophia, I'm feeling you, but I can't really understand you. It's breaking up a little bit there, but I appreciate the call. Thank you for sharing.
Yes, thank you, Sophia. And I heard her say my name, so yes.
Of all of that, you heard your name.
Funny
that
the things we pull
says
out.
It all right there.
Sophia said Celeste and Valentine's Day. Yes, Sophia.
Well, happy Valentine's Day, Sophia, whatever it is you're doing.
That's right. Coming up on Hello Houston, representatives from MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, will join us to talk about the HALT Drunk Driving Law, which aims to equip every new car with anti-drunk driving technology by 2030. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
Houston, say hello to the Ride Metro Fare Card. It's the new way to ride. The Ride Metro Fare System will replace the old Metro Q Fare Card and will make buying your bus and train fares easier than ever before. Visit ridemetro.org/fare system.
Help us tell local stories and share voices that define Greater Houston. No matter who this gift is for, your support powers Houston Public Media. Be one of the 100. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
I'm Jeremy Hobson. Next time on The Middle, politics can divide friends, families, even couples. So what happens when the person you love votes differently than you do? Is it still possible to be in a relationship with someone who has different politics? That's next time on The Middle.
You can hear The Middle Thursday night at 8 p.m.
Did you know your gift to Houston Public Media could go twice or even 3 times as far through your employer's matching gift program? Many companies will match the charitable donations of their employees, and some even match gifts from retirees. That means your support for trusted news and programs could have double the impact for our community. Find out if your company participates at houstonpublicmedia.org/match.
Houston Public Media presents the Moss Story Slam tonight at Warehouse Live Midtown. Doors open at 7 p.m. The theme of the night is Love Hurts, stories about a love that made you go ouch. Tickets at houstonpublicmedia.org/themoth.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Metro. Introducing the Ride Metro Fare Card. The Ride Metro Fare system replaces the Metro Q Fare Card for bus and rail fares. Details at ridemetro.org/fare system.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Drunk driving continues to take more than 10,000 lives each year. And now Mothers Against Drunk Driving is pushing a new proposal aimed at stopping it before it starts. The HALT Drunk Driving Law would require anti-drunk driving technology in all new cars, with the goal of making roads safer nationwide. Joining us are Stephanie Manning, the Chief Government Affairs Officer at MAD, and Rana Abbas-Taylor, whose family's tragedy inspired the legislation. Rana, welcome to... Is this Rana or Stephanie that I'm seeing?
This is Rana. Thank you.
Rana, thank you so much for joining us on Hello Houston. And if you would like to join the conversation, you can call 713-440-8870.
Rana, I'm curious. I want to be sensitive as we go into this about having your own story materialize into legislation. Talk to me a little bit about how your family decided to move forward with this and to be tied to this legislation.
Sure. Thank you. First, I do want to express my appreciation for just bringing attention to the issue. It's really critical for us, and we really appreciate your time and attention on it. As for me and my family, it was, excuse the cat in the background, I'm sorry. It was actually the loss of my family that for me, as an activist, having been an activist, a career activist, that for me actually took me offline. It did the opposite. So it was extremely devastating and very traumatic. And I often liken it to the lights going out. It was like I went offline. And for almost a year, a little less than a year, I was walking around in the dark. Because when you lose almost everything that you care about, very little, if anything, matters anymore. It wasn't until Matt invited me to Washington, D.C. in October of 2019, about 10 months after my family was killed, to attend a press event that would announce a companion bill in the Senate to the bill that Congresswoman Debbie Dingell had introduced in honor of my family right after their loss. That I was hesitant to attend. I didn't feel I was in the right frame of mind, but something compelled me to just go and understand what it is that was happening, because I wasn't fully aware of any of the policy work that was happening around the issue at the time. And it was in DC right before the press event that Stephanie Manning, who's here on the call with us, looked me straight in the eye and said to me, "I am so sorry that this happened to your family, but they're the reason." She said, "Listen to me, they are the reason we're going to end drunk driving in this country." And that woke me up in a way that I don't think anything else would have. It's like she turned the lights on for me because I couldn't walk away from that. As an activist, one thing I know I have always known is while we hope in absolutes, we don't speak in absolutes. For her to speak to me in such an absolute made it feel like it was a responsibility that I needed to engage.
How does it help with the healing?
You know, that's a great question. Thank you for asking. I never imagined how it could help. And, you know, I kind of stay away from the term healing because it's hard to imagine healing from something so devastating. However, in terms of how it has helped me cope with my loss and cope with the trauma, the value that it has brought, because every act that we do, not just in honor of them, but in honor of every victim or survivor who has been in a drunk driving crash, serves to grow that legacy. And so there is a healing element to that as well.
Rana, first of all, I want to say I'm sorry for your loss. I really am. I do want to turn to Stephanie. I know you're there with us. Stephanie, tell us about this idea of all automobiles, I'm assuming trucks as well, all having a HALT system, H-A-L-T, that by 2030, you can't get in your car and have had any alcohol because the car will detect that, and then the car won't go. Is that correct, Stephanie?
So, hi, and thank you. I want to just say I really appreciate the discussion. It's really valuable for us to have these discussions and get accurate information out there around the law. And the law is named after Rana's family, her sister, Rima, husband, Isam, and their 3 young children, a family of 5 who should still be here, like a lot of other victim survivors that we work with at MAD. So to answer your question, the Honoring the Abbas Family Legacy to Terminate Drunk Driving Act requires the Department of Transportation to create a safety standard for all new motor vehicles that has passive built-in technology that can determine not if they've had any alcohol, but if they're in fact about to commit a crime. If they are at 0.08 BAC, that's the law of the land, and when everybody is impaired and too impaired to operate a vehicle. Now, of course, we don't believe you should have any drinks and drive, but what this law does is says if you're at the illegal limit, if you're about to try to illegally operate your vehicle, it's not going to call the cops. It's not going to share your information with anybody. It's not going to be part of any adjudication process. This is simply a safety feature in your car that says, hey, you're at the illegal limit. You cannot safely operate this vehicle. That's a feature that we know from talking to offenders too. There are so many offenders who have said to us over the last decade and a half plus, boy, I wish I had that technology on my car. I wouldn't have ended up in jail. I wouldn't have ended up hurting, killing anybody in my vehicle or somebody else's and living with that pain, in addition to causing so much harm to other families. So I think once people understand what this law does and what it does not do, there's a lot more support and understanding around, okay, everybody wants to end drunk driving. The only way we're going to get here after 45 years of Mothers Against Drunk Driving, putting the names and faces of victims on the statistics, these are real people. Rana and her family are real people, and they exist in every community across the country. We're here to say enough is enough. We've got to end the crime.
They're a beautiful family. I saw the picture on your website. You're absolutely the one at the beach, and just a gorgeous family. I do want to get to the technical part of this. Your steering wheel, your starter, and your mirror, all 3 of those would be able to detect your alcohol content. Would that be correct, Stephanie?
Yeah, it depends on the type of technology. You're naming various types. It could be one version of what you just outlined or a system in combination. It really depends on what the regulation states. This is in the middle of a rulemaking process, so we're not exactly sure which one of those, or maybe there'd be flexibility for the auto industry to make that determination and see what consumers like.
Right.
Stephanie, I have 2 questions for you. And one, it's about what we were discussing before, looking at the technical. And we do have a question from YouTube about the technical. But I'm curious, you said something, and when we look at statistics, can you tell us the statistics around when you have a situation with a drunk driver, how many of them are repeat offenders, as in they've had DWIs or DUIs in the past, and people that made one bad decision one night?
That's a great question. And there's a statistic I'll share with you all from the FBI that people drive drunk 88 times before they're caught. Wow. So even if you're not technically listed in the system as a repeat offender, most people are repeat offenders. This is typically not, and it can be anybody from any walk of life, from any political party. This is a nonpartisan issue. Humans, I think, when they're drunk, don't have the capacity to make that decision. Am I okay? Am I at the illegal limit? We're not here to sort of beat up on would-be drunk drivers or people with potentially substance use issues. We're here to say, let's solve it. And the only way to do that, because people drive drunk because they can, is to make it impossible to commit the crime to begin with. And that's possible. The technology's here. It exists. We can save more than 10,000 lives every year and prevent hundreds of thousands of serious injuries. And really, anybody listening to this program, it could happen to any one of us at any time. We're here to say, from a victim survivor perspective, let's end it now so that no one else has to go through what Rana and so many others live with every day.
Let me ask you this, Stephanie, and Rana, you might know the answer too. First of all, why hasn't MAD really pursued some harsh, stringent penalties for drinking and driving and getting a DUI, other than saying you could hurt somebody? Why haven't they gone after you lose your license for 3 years, you lose your license for life, you have a penalty of $50,000? I mean, if you really got in there with some stringent penalties, that might help. And I don't think a lot of people realize that if you have a DUI, you may not be able to go and visit Canada or Mexico or Japan or Australia. They'll stop you before you enter their country and say, you are not a clean record. In our book, you're a felon. You're not coming into this country. And a lot of that hasn't been advertised. So can you address those questions?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been 45 years of a push at the state level, and there have been thousands of laws on the books. Driving drunk is illegal in every state, and the laws do account for harsh penalties. I think part of the problem is on the adjudication side, it's not always handed down the way that it needs to, and we're taking a hard look at that. What do the laws say, and what are judges actually doing? There's a lot of plea bargaining that goes on. People who have an offense and it gets plea bargained down and it doesn't count as the offense that it should. I think there's a lot of problems with the system that we've been working on for 4.5 decades, right? And we can keep going that route, or we can say, let's end it. Let's end it, because there are so many problems with the system, and getting laws passed, it's not an easy thing. Even when you've got victims and survivors going to state legislatures or going to Capitol Hill and saying, we need more done in this space, the legal system just, in our minds, isn't doing enough, and they're not handing down the penalties that are on the books. So at this point, after so many decades of work on more stringent laws, we're saying it's enough. We have the technology to solve this problem. We can save more than 10,000 lives every year and prevent hundreds of thousands of serious injuries. Why wouldn't we want to get the solution in every car and get it done, solve the public health crisis once and for all?
You're listening to Hello Houston. We are talking to Stephanie Manning with MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, and Rana Abbas-Taylor, whose family tragedy inspired the HALT Act. You can call or text 713-440-8870. We do have a call from Sam from Fifth Ward. Sam, welcome to Hello Houston.
Yeah, hello, madam. Good afternoon. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. My guiding point is this, imposing these things on all vehicles may be a draconian effort, because the costs are there, and plus you have to maintain them, and maintenance cost goes up. A simpler solution is already on the way. You've got these cars that are going to drive by themselves. That technology is coming, then we don't need all these things. That is one thing. Plus, if you have this technology implemented on all the cars, it becomes onerous to maintain and increase the cost. What about the existing cars? That is another thing. And inattentive driving is a very big, what you call it, as killer as much as drunken driving. So if you have self-driving cars, it takes care of both inattentive driving as well as drunken driving.
Sam, thank you very much for that. To just recap it, Stephanie, for you, 3 different areas he hits on: the cost of this technology, oncoming auto driving cars. Doesn't that already correct it? And what about folks with older cars?
Yeah, all great questions. And the gentleman refers to autonomous vehicles. That's something that we're also supportive of. We see AVs as sort of a part of the solution in the future, but that's going to take a long time. We're not going to have a fully autonomous vehicle fleet in a very, very long time. And, it's something we can solve now. By getting this technology on all new vehicles, we can stop drunk driving now and not have to wait. Every single day we wait, 34 more people die due to drunk driving. And there's a simple solution. In terms of cost, the cost is minimal. We've heard from some auto suppliers, this is single-digit dollars per vehicle. That's, again, single-digit dollars per vehicle to save more than 10,000 lives every year and protect everyone's family on the road. And I just want to make sure I'm answering all of the parts of the question. What was the final piece?
Older cars that are already out there.
And this isn't something we're looking at requiring for older cars, but there are solutions that people can look into to put on older vehicles, or technology that exists that they can put on for their teen drivers. I mean, that all either exists or is coming in easier forms to retrofit, but this law does not affect cars already on the road. It's for new vehicles.
And RW from Southwest Houston is also on the line. RW, welcome to Hello Houston. What is your comment or question?
Thank you so much for taking my call. First off, I wanted to send out a big shout out of thanks to MAD for what they've been doing for decades in this regard. And this HALT program sounds fantastic. I have a personal anecdote. My chronicle carrier, a Vietnamese immigrant who's done a fantastic job for me and for many other people. Back in Thanksgiving time of 2022, his family was minding their own business. His wife's their son, the son's wife, and their grandson were all driving on I-45, and a wrong-way drunk driver hit them and killed all 4 of them in an instant. So he went from a family of 5 to just himself. And I think people don't realize how devastating and what a huge blow they have just by drinking and not thinking when they're driving. So I really wish people would stop and think even before they get into the situation. Think about how you're going to get home. We still have such an easy culture with drinking, and it's kind of part of the socialization thing. And I think we really need to take a second look at that and decide, hey, how am I going to get home? If I'm going to drink a lot, then who's driving me? Am I calling Uber, a taxi, or someone's going to give me a lift or whatever? So I just that's my comment, and thank you so much for this program about HALT and about MAD.
Thanks, RW. And just to make the point, you could do the right thing and take an Uber. That Uber could be hit by a drunk driver and you're still dead. So,
right.
We need to get the solution out there, and I completely support it.
We did also get another comment on YouTube kind of digging down and digging into the cost of it. And Eves, Texas, it says single-digit cost to install, but what are the upkeep costs? The smallest and cheapest part on a car can fail and cause it to not run nowadays. It simply adds unnecessary complexity. What about somebody who is saying this is going to, because of one bad apple, it's going to ruin it all for the barrel?
They said that about airbags.
And seatbelts, too. I mean, I remember people, I guess.
That was exactly where I was going to go with this. It's the same arguments that we're hearing against HALT, and it's from a very small minority of people. There's overwhelming support for not only anti-drunk driving technology, but for the law itself. But it really does speak to kind of how hard it is to change people's attitudes around vehicle safety. The seatbelt is the single most important public health initiative in vehicle safety we've ever seen. And there was a lot of opposition to it back in the 80s and before. Now the seatbelt saves more than 15,000 lives every year. HALT is the next seatbelt. And we're dealing with a lot of the same rhetoric that we dealt with seatbelts at the time. I think it's really just having an open discussion and dialogue, talking with people about their concerns and figuring out solutions to get beyond them. You can come up with 100 reasons why this isn't a good idea, but I'm going to come up with 10,000 plus more as to why this is a good idea, because I work every single day with people who have family members who should still be here, like Rana. And if we had planes falling from the sky or trains derailing at the level of death and injury that occurs on our roadways due to drunk driving every day, the world would stop. The transportation system would shut down and we would have solutions. So I think that the important thing to recognize here is why aren't we taking this more seriously? Why all the questions and what ifs about how things could go wrong? Let's talk about how we're going to make it work. And really, the only people that should have any concerns about this are people who want to drive drunk. If you don't drive drunk at 0.08 or above, you shouldn't have any concern about this. There are so many systems on your car today, things that could go wrong potentially. But it's interesting how much people are focused on that around anti-drunk driving technology. We're talking about saving more than 10,000 lives every year and hundreds of thousands of serious injuries. I think, again, we're more than happy to have these discussions and figure out pathways forward, but we're not going to stop until every vehicle has passive detection technology to make sure that people are complying with the law on public roads.
Well, good luck.
Stephanie Manning is the Chief Government Affairs Officer at MAD, and Rana Abbas-Taylor, whose family tragedy inspired the HALT Act. Thank you both for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Coming up, we're going to take a look backstage at the Ensemble Theatre. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Houston, say hello to the Ride Metro Fare Card. It's the new way to ride. The Ride Metro Fare system will replace the old Metro Q fare card and will make buying your bus and train fares easier than ever before. Visit ridemetro.org/fare system.
You rely on. It only takes a few minutes to make a big difference. Join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
The lure of using AI to complete student assignments has made universities uneasy.
They actually think they're getting the work done in a way that's helping them. That's a larger group. It is a group that's effectively robbing themselves of the experience that they say they want to have, which is the learning experience.
Is AI getting in the way of critical thinking? That's next time on Think.
You can hear it tonight at 10 o'clock.
This Valentine's Day, we're on a mission to reach 100 gift memberships. You make the donation, your loved one gets the Houston Public Media membership and benefits, like PBS Passport, where they can stream thousands of hours of PBS shows. You also help us tell local stories and share voices that define Greater Houston. No matter who this gift is for, your support powers Houston Public Media. Be one of the 100. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
The Ensemble Theatre is one of Houston's most treasured cultural arts institutions. Founded in 1976, the theater was created to help expand opportunities for actors of color, as well as provide theatrical education for the entire community. Today, the ensemble is recognized for its tremendous contributions to the theater community and for continuing its mission of preserving African American artistic expression, while also enlightening, entertaining, and enriching Houston's diverse community. To tell us more, we have Ensemble Theater's Artistic Director Eileen J. Morris and resident actor Timothy Eric. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
How's the season going?
Oh my gosh, it's great. This is our, first of all, thank you very much for having us on. We do appreciate it. This is our 49th season, if you can believe that.
Holy moly.
I know, right? 49 years.
What do you have planned for the 50th?
Well, it's coming. It is coming. Get ready. Drum roll, please. But the Ensemble Theatre has been around for 49 years, guys, and we're really very blessed to be able to be in the heart of Midtown Houston, where we've been since our conception. And George Hawkins was the founder of the Ensemble Theatre. And so 49 years, we've been doing great plays. We started off the season with Aquila and the Bee. And so that was a family-friendly show that a lot of people knew about and heard about. Of course, who doesn't want to know about spelling bees? We all kind of did in our youth anyway. We had a holiday show, and then we've got The Bluest Eye going. So we've got a great season of shows that are coming after that, some Pulitzer Prize-winning plays, regional premieres, musicals, and then heading up for that 50th anniversary season.
There are going to be those, I'm sorry to cut you off, Frank, there are going to be those that are going to say, is there still a need for an ensemble theater?
Oh,
and
absolutely.
the platform is yours to explain.
Absolutely, and I'm sure Tim has some thoughts about that. But of course there is the need for the ensemble theater. I mean, first of all, the ensemble theater is one of the oldest black professional theaters in the Southwest. Mm-hmm. So we're here telling the story unlike any other. I'm not saying that our other theater companies are not doing that, but they're not doing it on a consistent basis where audiences know that they can walk into that space and, as the little girl said when she came to see Cinderella, oh, mommy, she looks like me. Mm-hmm. And so when you hear things like that, you understand the need for the community to be enriched by the presence of an ensemble theater and why. And they don't ask other institutions that. Why are they doing the work that they're doing? So to me, it's important that we continue doing that work and being present and having a voice and letting our voices be heard.
So Timothy, you were going to say, are you one of the resident actors that is in a lot of the shows?
Yeah, I am. I've done a lot of shows of it down south. I don't know about resident actors.
I think so.
That's
yes.
cool. Okay, all right. That's good.
Just got to try
it now, Timothy. You are
try
now.
that on for a while.
They just can't get rid of you.
Okay. No, I've been acting there since I think '96 or something like that. Yeah, we're heading toward it a lot. But I've been part of the theater since years before that as a technician. So I mean, as when you talk about whether it needs to be here, of course it does. I mean, I was able to hone my craft as a technician, as a lighting designer, a sound designer, and I was doing those things around at other theaters in Houston from the training that I got and the opportunities that I got at the Ensemble Theater. And then when we graduated into acting, it's just been a great ride ever since. But I mean, the sheer numbers of actors that call Houston home. I mean, we need more theaters doing works of color. The ensemble is an anchor to me. Is the center, the core, of course, in my world. But I've done plays with with other theaters, and I mean, there's just so many. The ensemble could not satisfy enough of the demand on their own.
Right. It founded in 1976. Here we are, 49 years later. Wow. How has the ensemble evolved, and what type of themes do you still see occurring on stage today?
Well, unfortunately, many of those themes and the kind of themes of the plays or themes of the world are the same. That's the unfortunate part of it. Yeah. When you think about what the world is going through today, and all of our art reflects that. Right? Our art reflects the world that we live in. It reflects the times. It reflects the trends. And so there are many things that are still there. Racism, political awareness, peer pressure, things that relate to various people in the world. Yeah. And yet, you're able to do these works with joy. You're able to do them with the passion and the love of we're informing our community. We're enriching our community by letting them know the type of work that we do and why we do it. So we're here to bring awareness to our community, to make it known that we are part of the community, and to elevate, the kind of energy that happens between human beings.
Right, and I would imagine that to those themes, there's always that counter of resilience.
Absolutely.
And pride in culture, and putting it out there that, as I'm going to say, Benito Boll said it, we are here to stay.
That's right. There you go. I love that. That's absolutely.
I mean, through the history of the theater, you have been a big part of it for many years. As long as I've been here, you've been there. We've been there together. I'm curious about how you approach things differently today than you did maybe 30 years ago.
I think for me, it's really about what the work says. What the play, what the lines, what the words on the page say, what the playwright is indicating, how that energy of that play speaks to me and my spirit and where I am today. Because you're right, a play that I read, years ago, it would affect me differently than now as a maturer woman, right? Yeah. And that is, has had the the world around her elevate and move around in so many different ways. So I think it's really about how that work is now, what the words are saying, how we want to relate that to the audience. And I think The Bluest Eye is a great example of that work. People know that play. They know the novel by Toni Morrison.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us read it in 5th grade, 6th grade, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so you know the complexities of that, but the brilliance of the writing. And so approaching that play, I always say that this was a hard play for us to put together just with all the dynamics that it had.
What's the dates for The Bluest Eye?
So, Tim, you know that, right?
Oh, yeah. I was going to say that also, technically speaking, production value is a lot different now. It's a lot higher.
We are so out of time.
Oh, okay.
How long does this go?
It goes until February 22nd.
Okay,
February 22nd.
Right.
Eileen J. Morris is the artistic director for the Ensemble Theatre. Timothy Eric is a resident actor with the Ensemble Theatre. Eileen, Timothy, thank you both for joining us today.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having us.
And as Frank said, we've run out of time.
We have.
We were having too much fun. We want to thank you for joining us today and listening to Hello Houston. We will be back tomorrow with more conversations. We're also going to discuss a new University of Houston report about Texas's new education savings account program. This is News 88.7. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altide, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Metro. Introducing the Ride Metro Fare Card. The Ride Metro fare system replaces the Metro Q Fare Card for bus and rail fares. Details at ridemetro.org/fare system.
Your NPR station, KUHF Houston, a service of the University of Houston.
Funding for Here and Now comes from MathWorks, creator of MATLAB and Simulink software, accelerating the pace of engineering and science. Learn more.